Anyway, it is about 21 minutes past 10 o'clock. I would like to welcome into the studio here at PBS FM Eddie Katz and David Bellion. Gentlemen, how are you tonight?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for coming in anyway. Obviously, we have been, since the end of November now, we've been playing Mechanical Organic. This is the third or the fourth release of Mechanical Organic?
There's been two albums. Two mini albums.
Mini albums, okay. But we had a change of direction anyway with this new Mechanical Organic album.
Absolutely.
I actually would have almost thought that you would give that whole project a new title or a new name. But anyway, the album is called This Global Hive Part 1. And so far, tell us about it. Tell us about the reviews. Tell us about feedback that you got.
Reviews have been really positive. Everything's been going really well. The response has been great. Lots of feedback from overseas and lots of sales have been really strong. We're independent by choice, so we're doing it all ourselves, and it's been going really well. Been really happy with the response. It's been great.
Now, every one of your albums has been a conceptual album to the uttermost degree, I must almost say.
Yep.
Well, this year is...
Ed doesn't agree with you, Peter.
We consider our music more theme-based than concept. When I think of a concept album, I think of mind crime and a plot and characters.
Okay, a storytelling.
A storyline. Whereas ours is very theme-based. We pick a subject and we examine it from all different angles.
Yeah,
and each song will be a different look at that subject matter. And so, I don't like the word concept to describe what we do.
Okay, fair enough. Well, it doesn't change the fact that the degree of fanaticism that comes across in this album from the dialogue projected in here is just amazing.
Yeah.
And just for those people who are not aware, we're talking here about the coming of chaos, the new world order, the satanistic thoughts, what is the good, the Antichrist...
I think you're doing well enough.
The Antichrist thinking that happens around this world in quite a few places.
Yep.
What got you to actually dig into that subject altogether?
It starts from listening to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I download a lot of stuff. And when I stumble across something that interests me, I start writing music around it. I obviously get permission to use the podcast because it's very important. But once we find a podcast that's the dialogue's really good and interesting and the audio quality is reasonable, then we can start thinking about what we want to do with it and how we want to use it in our music and start piecing it into our songs.
So who makes the initial decision as to what?
Well, I have in the past because Dave on board once a lot of the music was already written.
But it's almost the chicken and the egg syndrome here. Like, which came first? You look at a podcast or a theme first and then start writing lyrics, or is it the...
No, it's the podcast first, really.
Yep.
Yeah, because we've used... Well, I've started using the spoken word dialogue a lot in our stuff over the last couple of releases.
Yep.
And it's become a big part of what we do, and almost a point of difference between a lot of other bands too. So it's almost an integral part, and it is the starting point.
Yeah.
Like if I can't find something that's interesting, well, we start.
I tell you what, it is interesting. This guy, Russ Disda.
Disda, yeah.
Do you actually know him personally?
No. I just contacted him.
Yeah.
Like if you visit shadowthedarkness.net,
which I have,
hundreds of podcasts.
Yeah.
He's prolific. He must spit out about 2 or 3 a week.
Yeah.
This guy. There's just so much stuff there, and a lot of it's really, really preachy. It's not.
I was going to say it's full
and
on.
the particular one that I used was an interview. He was being interviewed by someone about mind control and the whole concept that we were dealing with.
Yeah.
So it was that from that perspective, it was really, really good. But a lot of the other stuff's really preachy and really religious, and it's hard to listen to.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, anyway. You know, a lot of people might like it, but for me, it's really hard to listen to.
Well, I was reading actually your biography on the mechanical organic side, and I think you have the pathway to perception.
Yeah.
Which you do kind of spiritual stuff.
Yeah, that's a meditation thing that I.
Okay.
It's a side project.
Yeah. I thought maybe they were combined.
No, definitely not. It's completely different.
Well, using all that spoken word, actually I found in a way that I described it in the review that I did originally, that at times it feels that you're actually creating the music as a soundtrack around the spoken word, and that actually you describe it as such right now yourself. So actually, I kind of got that right in a sense.
Yeah.
So then you bring David in. You write some lyrics around this.
Yes.
And you're creating music around this.
Yes.
So how do you know, where do you decide there's room for something to go over it, where there's no room to go for something? I'm baffled.
Trial and error.
The originality factor on this is just so through the roof that I cannot follow the concept of how this has all come together. Yeah. Really.
So from my perspective, the lyrics, our lyrics, are kind of vague. Like you read them and they're open to interpretation. As far as I'm concerned.
The best albums are though, really.
Yeah. So, but for us, the dialogue helps to pin it all together.
Yeah. It's almost like a second vocalist almost.
Absolutely, yeah. And it helps tell the story, so we don't have to say as much with our lyrics. Sort of let the spoken word do some of the talking for us, you know.
And so, Dave, now you come in with your lyrics, hey? I mean, you together have written the lyrics, but you do all the singing. And obviously, we've heard you sing before on numerous projects like Fractured, Neu Regal, and, etc. Yeah. Well, did you have any different approach here in what you were doing or in how you were doing it? This is very doomy prog almost, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. Especially with the album being like over an hour's worth, you know, you've really got to... Sorry, got to get closer. You've really got to approach it and try and be different, you know, like the whole way through. Plus, you're telling a story as well, so you can't, just in my view, like you can't afford to like sing at the same level, like start off aggressive, and because then there's nowhere to go, you know. So it's kind of like acting in a way, you know, because you got to play the part and stuff like that. So yeah, look, there was a lot of ideas that I tried on this, but really got brought out by just Eddie's stuff because I was really inspired by it and sort of spurred me on to
But with the narration, the text itself is actually at times very graphic. It's quite
descriptive
and brutally graphic. While at other times, it's like you say, it's almost monotonous, preachy. It's almost like a metronome running in the background. It's just talking. I felt
like I was in a psychedelic dream half the time.
I find actually you musically you counteract it very well with these atmospheric, doomy passages, and then you go really frantic, almost fusion-esque with the music, like you go right off and you throw everything at the pot there is. And I think lyrically or vocally, you kind of find a way of balancing all this. It's
Well, how much of that was trial and error, though? I mean, Eddie talked about the narration being trial and error. How much of the lyrics or your singing was trial and error? Did you throw a whole bunch of stuff in there?
Basically, what I like to do is just play the song and just sing it, just feel it.
Yeah.
You know, and then just like you just mentioned, Peter, like you got to find a common ground in between the music. Like if I sort of try and match the music, it's not going to work because everything's going to be all together. So, and fighting against it. So I sort of got to find that groove and just sort of float in and out type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you also contributed music to the album, is that right, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what was your input there?
Guitars.
Yeah.
A little bit of keyboards.
Yeah.
Most of it's heads. And, yeah. That's about it.
Okay.
And you wrote the lyrics together, obviously, I suppose. Well, at least that's what the booklet says, that you together have molded the lyrics around all this.
Yeah, well, actually, most of the lyrics were all written. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, obviously, you know, like from a vocalist point of view, there's certain sections that, you know, you either think of other things to put in there and stuff like that. Yeah. So I just added stuff or changed words here and there. And Ed was really open to that. So it was really good.
Eddie, sorry.
No, go for it.
Mind if I just throw this back at you? Because now we obviously got a bit of an insight on David, and he's done a great deal of stuff on that album. He also done a great deal of the production as such and helped with things around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got Connie D, you got Evan Harris, you got Andrew Hurst. Well, how did you come to choose these people? By association or?
Yeah, we've known. Well, I've known Evan for a long time.
Everyone's known Evan for a long time.
Everyone's band.
I mean, again, we talk a little bit of. There's a bit of a vaudeville association too with us. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, he played on the Vogue album. You know, he played bass on Vogue. So I've known Evan forever. I used to help him when he was in Taramis. I used to roadie for him. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Evan's. One of the best bass players, you know, around in Melbourne. And the world, you know, he's fantastic. Conrad, he joined me when I first put together the first album, so he's been with us since the start. Andrew, we've known him for a long time. He's one of Dave's mates. He's been around forever. Great drummer. And Dave, I played in vaudeville in the very early days of vaudeville with Dave. He was our first singer back then. So, yeah. Just a bunch of friends, really, you know,
so
which is good.
Yeah. So let's just call upon him and help and get him help in. And,
well, it's a bit more than that.
Before you know it, you got a band together, and it's kind of happening.
Yeah. Well, I consider it a band. It's not just a bunch of friends making music, but yeah. So I think it is a full-on band.
Well, I appreciate hearing that, because we were chatting a little bit off here and speculating, because we want to see this thing on the stage at some stage.
Yeah. At the moment, there are no plans to play live. We're really just focused on recording, especially the next album.
Is there some wishful thinking?
We would never rule it out, but at the moment, because we're independent and we're self-financing this whole thing, to do it live, we would need to invest a bit of money to do it properly. We wouldn't want to take shortcuts and do something half-assed and just go out there and play. We would want to do it really well, and that would include all the backing tracks. So we would need a fairly decent setup. So until we can establish ourselves and there's a bit of demand for our music, I can't see it happening in the near future. So we'll see how we go, but at the moment we really want to get the next album out and continue our progress in that respect.
So I'm assuming, using my Sherlock powers of deduction, that with part one, that the aim is to...
Yeah, there may be a part two at some stage.
Wow, Gary, you got your shit together, I tell you.
This is why I'm here. I ask all the interesting questions.
Tough.
Yeah, we won't do a perfect album.
And wait for like 10 years or whatever. But Eddie, your keyboard work,
yes.
One of the things that I really loved, even in a track like, say, Spiritual Machines, there's a section in that song where there's just a buzzing noise in the background.
Yeah.
And it's really off-putting, but in a good way, because it distracts you from what's actually musically going on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it with repeated listens, you actually get into the music a lot more, because...
Can I extend on that? There's actually what I thought. There's actually some industrial recordings in the background, industrial noises like screeching and squealing.
It's probably a mix issue.
that's David Bellion's fault.
But hang on. But it is rhythmic and it only shows up in certain key places. So I actually challenged that.
Yeah, well, we not only do keyboards, we use a lot of sound effects as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff thrown in as well. So it keeps things pretty interesting.
That was the idea from the start, to keep people on their toes, really, too. We were talking about concept albums before, like an Operation Mindcrime. There's always so much more that you can get out of an album with this sort of, when you're throwing this sort of stuff in it. Yeah.
Well, in terms of keyboards, I'm no Jordan Rudess. I'm not going to be you're never going to get a solo out of me. So it's more about atmosphere and vibe and just creating something that's really lush and interesting, underneath all the rest of it. So, yeah.
You certainly have that achieved with a weirdness factor included.
Yeah, well, that's very important,
and the feedback so far has been, I know there was a few criticisms of too much narration in there, but...
will you let that affect you?
Probably not. We may go even further. We may.
David, you don't have a job anymore. This is going to be a full album of narration.
That guy actually talks more and Peter not singing.
Yeah.
A good thing.
Look, we may do some interesting things with bonus material.
Yeah.
So really go full on with more dialogue to give even more of a bigger picture over the theme of the album. So yeah, you may find there be more in some sections.
Well,
possibly not on the album.
I think that the bottom line is really that it's in a review. It's either people who'd like it or dislike it. The fact to criticize that there's too much of it is probably wrong in the first place, because you are actually using this as the basis to the music that you're making. So throwing criticism at the framework of what you're creating doesn't really compute when everything else they say is great, when everything else is actually created around that framework.
Yeah, well, I guess they don't know that. So it's just an opinion.
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, but just now we learned an insight where we realized that, or we knew from the word go, or from my first listen, I knew that the narration here is a very important part of it all.
Yeah.
As I said, it seemed like your music was a soundtrack surrounding it at times, but you clearly established here that the narration came first. You had this, you had this spoken word in front of you, that subject matter, and you just went off and created something musically around it. So.
That's the way.
It would be a shame if you would change paths halfway with all that originality that's going on here.
Yeah, exactly, and just based on a couple of people's opinion. I mean, if you start doing stuff like that, you're going to lose out in the end.
Has the narrator Russ, has he actually heard the album yet? No. Okay.
Nah.
I'd love to know what he thinks, whether he's into the music, because obviously you've had a few communications to be able to get hold of the material.
He'll probably want the royalties.
Don't we all?
Yeah, it would be nice.
But you're selling it via mainly the obviously without playing live. You're going to be mainly selling it via your website and Facebook. And,
yeah, that's right.
Which is
mechanicalorganic.com is the website.
Pretty hard to remember.
Yeah, and the Facebook site as well, which is where we spit out all our news and.
And Eddie, I might congratulate you on the artwork that you've done on this.
Thank you.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. Any one time that you see a dead fish in a graphic front depiction, and you don't even realize it until you take a second look at it. It's really well done.
It's the sort of thing where the all the photography and the artwork is layered, all the music is layered. I mean, everything about this product is about layering and depth, and it's just phenomenal.
Was there any purpose behind like the dead fish or the mushrooms or the butterfly, or did it just artistically come together?
I just spend a lot of time taking photographs of just stuff that I think I can use, because I've got to take photos of things that I can digitally cut out, and then I can layer them, put them in and see what works, and then try and create something that actually means something, and it's quite challenging, but it's good fun as well.
Oh, it looks actually. How can I put it? It has a gothic feel to it, which goes with the darkness of the metal that you have. But it also reflects the weirdness in subject matter that appears in this photo. So I thought it was a great marriage. The narration, the music, the artwork, everything is it's a wonderful product you got there.
I'm a bit of a one-trick pony when it comes to artwork, but the trick's reasonably solid.
If the first time we've seen it, then it's worked on us. But congratulations on the album.
Thank you very much.
Peter and I discuss quite often that it's, even though I love every local band, this is something so different and out there. And to come from Melbourne, I would just love to see this stuff get out a little bit further into the world. I know you haven't organised distribution and stuff, but I'd love to see this, because I know so many. I go to so many prog forums, and I know people would love this sort of stuff. So hopefully the CD sales do reflect it from your website, because it really deserves it.
So what are your musical influences other than coming from a background of vaudeville? What are your personal music? What are you listening to?
What am I listening to? Much the same sort of stuff at the moment. In the past, I've drifted away from this style a little bit, just to branch out a little bit and listen to a few different things. But I find myself always coming back to this genre.
So you're listening to bands like Memento Mori or Veni Domain or...
No.
So
you
there you go. I compared you to that.
heard.
Yeah, I compared you to them originally in my review, for instance. So,
oh, okay. I'll have to
would be interesting to maybe introduce you to some of that.
Yeah.
What you know? Have you heard of the Colorado band Digital Ruin?
Yes.
It reminded me of Listen, that first album.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
of theirs.
As a matter of fact, I have on my short list for the show a track of that album, Listen, because of Mechanical Organic. Because I thought, let's at some stage let people hear what we are actually comparing it with.
Okay. Beautiful.
And Dave, I know you love your Jeff Tate. I don't know if you still love your Jeff Tate at the moment, or whether you're more of a Todd LaTorre fan, but you sound much better than Jeff at the moment.
Well, that's really flattering. Thanks a lot. I still think Jeff Tate's, he's a legend. So, I mean, I don't know the guy personally. He might be a real arsehole, but I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean...
If he sings well and you love what he does, that's...
Yeah, exactly. But, there's so many great singers that just influence you every time you hear them. So
yeah. Have you heard Jeff's new album, that Kings and Thieves or whatever?
Yeah.
And what do you think?
Yeah.
Come on, tell us what you think.
Bad question.
It's terrible.
That's all we wanted to hear.
Anyway, gentlemen, really appreciate you coming in and having a chat with us here. And I hope that, as you said, you're working on part 2. When part 2 comes out, I hope it's just as good. And I hope we get you in here again and chat again about the product. Yep. You have got something special happening tomorrow.
Yes, we have the release of our first YouTube clip for Intellectual Clones, track 3 on the album.
Who put that together?
Yeah, that would be me. Yeah, so
a labour of love.
No, it was a pain in the arse, but it's much the same as the artwork. Very layered. A lot of the layers that are in the artwork are in the clip, so it sort of comes together. Pretty trippy. So if you like the artwork, you should.
Okay.
Find it interesting.
We played that track a few weeks ago or whatever, and we're actually going to play a couple of tracks now, the opening 2 tracks of the album. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we play it?
Meek as a dove, wise as a serpent.
That's me.
That's pretty much the intro to the album, and that pretty much sums up what you're about to hear. Yes, there's a lot of panning in that, so you get voices coming from everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can focus on all of them, at some point you'll get the bigger picture.
And the main track, which is Artistic Atrocities, what about that song?
I'll swing that over to Dave. Now look, again, like the artwork, I think lyrics are open to interpretation.
Yep.
So in the past, I've gone into a lot of detail about, on our website especially, about what all the tracks were about and given descriptions. But just recently I've thought, stuff that, I'm just going to let people decide for themselves, and I think it's more interesting that way. So I'll just leave it to you to decide what it's about, and I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Well, the narration is pretty impressive in the first place. So.
I love it. This is Mechanical Organic. A big thank you to Ed and
Thanks,
Dave
guys.
for coming in.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Here they are from their album This Global Hive Part 1, the opening 2 tracks, Meek as a Dove, Wise as a Serpent, and Artistic Atrocities. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Please understand the big plan. Years ago, a lot of the multiples were coming in, and there's a lot of information on the Monarch project. There's a couple of pieces of information out there that, whether they're disinformation or not, where someone has come out and talked about that the Monarch project is really a disinformation program itself, and it's really to divert people from the real thing. Well, you got to just weed through all of that. I will say this, monarchs that we dealt with had a small monarch tattooed on the left ankle. They did have background in rogue CIA. They were highly trained as infiltrators and so forth, because they understood MK Ultra and many other projects, Tapestry and Orion and Trinity and sub-projects and so forth. They're watching. As you're administering to all the other hurting parts, the rest are watching you. Now, they also, while they're placed among you in law enforcement and military government and so forth, they're getting upgrades. That's right, they're getting upgrades, just like computers do. They're eventually being called back at times, personalities insider trigger to bring the body back to the handlers. The handlers may teach them new things, check on them, talk to the informers, see where they are, whatever training they need, whatever they need for countermeasures, and also demonization. They might need to give them more demons to keep them powered up and to keep the programming down. They may need to make sure the sleeper is down. So in order for the Black Awakening to occur, they're going to have sleepers who have infiltrated and are placed and are waiting. And so I'm talking about having broader coverage. Be as meek as a dove, wise as a serpent.